Hello, comic book lovers. This is Comic Ed coming at you again with another list of key comic book issues that are a little off the beaten path. Now, when I say off the beaten path, what I'm talking about is these are books that have first appearances, key storylines, influential art or artists that are contributing to the books, but maybe fly a little under the radar price-wise because these characters have maybe lost steam over the last few years. They haven't gotten a movie or a television show, but they're still great books to add to your collection, nice books to have for the future, for spec books, or even just, again, like I said, adding to your collection. So without further ado, let's hop into the first one. This is a DC character who came about in the 80s with them. They had acquired him from the old Charlton Press. And in the late 80s and early 90s, DC really did a lot with Captain Atom. He kind of fell off to the wayside, but again, still an important character that they could bring back and do something with it in their series or in their runs right now. I would highly recommend getting this book. You can find it pretty cheap in a lot of stores, and it's Captain Atom #1, and it's his first appearance. So again, and just a really cool cover, neat character that has a lot of potential. This one you may have heard a little about, Captain America 332, mostly because of the John Walker rumors that are going on for Captain America and the Winter Soldier that's happening on Disney+. This is the book that kicked this off, Captain America 332, where Steve Rogers resigns in the Captain America role. And that just opened up the door for these new characters to come in and try to be Captain America. So again, this is a really neat book that started all that. Kind of flies under the radar. Those other books are really hopping and popping right now. But this one, again, is that off the beaten path. And on top of that, if it's starting the story, it's a great, just fantastic cover. So if you can find this one pretty cheap, I would recommend grabbing it. Now here's a great silly book if you were around in the 70s and 80s and loved these just silly characters that came out. Here's one for DC, Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew. Now this is not his first appearance. We'll talk about that in another video, but this is the first issue of the ongoing series. You can find these really cheap. Again, just some goofy, silly 80s DC nonsense with a silly character and his whole crew. And as you can see, Superman appears in it. So again, a great book. Highly recommended if you just want some fun. This is a pure long shot spec with a character that may or may never come out in Marvel again. You don't know. But the issue is Daredevil 150, and it's the first appearance of Paladin. Paladin falls in that line of mercenaries, the Punisher, Deadpool type. Came around in the late 70s for the Marvel Universe. He had a good little run there for a while in some books, but then kind of faded away. You can find these pretty cheap, and again, a great character to have in your collection just in case something ever happens with it, or again, just to have as a collector. And again, Daredevil 150, first appearance of Paladin. I love this character. She doesn't get enough credit, and that's Dazzler. And this is Dazzler #1, the first issue of her ongoing series. Again, not her first appearance, but a great book, great cover. And again, with the Marvel universe expanding and growing the X-Men soon, you never know what's going to happen with this character. With them expanding and trying to include more female roles, I could potentially see Dazzler being part of that. Again, not her first appearance, but that one's not cheap. But this is a great cheap book, first issue of her ongoing series that you can add to have a Dazzler, representation in your collection. Love this book. Think this is just a highly underrated book. DC Comics presents #85. First off, you got Superman teaming up with Swamp Thing, which is a fantastic duo. But the other key part of this book, the key issue, is that this is written by Alan Moore, famous author who wrote Swamp Thing for many, many issues, very classic run, and also known for the Watchmen series. So this is just a great book, just kind of a random book in that DC Comics Presents run of Superman Swamp Thing written by Alan Moore. Another group that you're hearing some buzz about because of that whole Marvel expansion of the X-Men series and X-Men characters is Excalibur. Excuse me. There's also been talk of Captain Britain. This is the first appearance of the Excalibur team all together. And this is Excalibur, The Sword is Drawn. So it's not Excalibur #1 from the series. This is an individual book that came out a few years before, and it's their first official appearance. Excalibur, The Sword is Drawn. You can find these all over the place. I think I pulled this one out of a $2 bin about a year or so ago. So be on the lookout for those. You never know what could happen. Keeping in with the silly, but also another important reason for a great artist, you got Fantastic Four 209. If anybody from the 80s remembers the silly, maybe in the late 70s, remembers the silly Fantastic Four cartoon that had Herbie the Robot in place of the Human Torch, this is Herbie's first appearance in Fantastic Four 209. Now, outside of the silliness, what really is a nice piece of this book, too, is this is the first John Byrne artwork on the Fantastic Four. And as you may or may not know, he goes on to have a great run in the Fantastic Four books. But this was the first artwork that he did, as well as the first appearance of Herbie the Robot. Another one that is picking up in hype, and if you can find this in the cheap bins right now, I would recommend looking for it. 52 number 12. This is the first appearance of the second Isis, who eventually becomes Black Adam's wife and becomes part of the Black Adam family. With the talk of Black Adam joining the DC Universe and the upcoming Shazam sequel with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson playing him, this book could catch fire really fast. You never know if she's going to be included in that, or it could fall flat and nothing could happen and it stays in those dollar bins. Again, a neat character just to add to your collection. I've always loved Isis and the role that she's played in the Marvel, or the Captain Marvel universe with Shazam and Black Adam. So these are pretty cheap. Go out, look for them. I would recommend adding it to your collection because you never know what's going to happen with that character. Here's a book. It's actually a series I'm going to share with you. If you haven't gotten these, go find them. They are fantastic. This is Frankenstein Alive, Alive. And if you love the classic horror movies, especially the Mary Shelley version of Frankenstein, this is a series that was drawn by Bernie Wrightson. It was the last work that he did, and there was actually supposed to be a fourth issue that never came out because of his death. You can buy the trade paperback, and it has the fourth issue. Some of the sketches are included. It wasn't finished again, like I said, because he passed away, unfortunately. But the first three books did come out. The artwork is stunning. The story is fantastic. They're beautiful. I was fortunate enough to meet Mr. Wrightson and have him sign these for me. What a wonderful man, wonderful talent, and it's too bad that he's gone. If you can find these books, please get them, add them to your collection. They're fantastic. And if you can't find the books, get the trade paperback. It is just so really good. Another book that is just so much fun. I found this one actually a few weeks ago. Ghost Rider number 16. And all I'm going to say about this is it's Ghost Rider versus Jaws. That's all you need to know. A little nostalgia here. As a kid growing up in the 80s, the G.I. Joe was one of my favorite things of all time. I loved it so much. The cartoon, the action figures, and the comic books. We would trade these things like currency on the playground. Then when this issue came out, people lost their minds. The kids were losing their minds because Destro, Cobra Commander, and Snake Eyes were going to take their masks off. We were going to see them for the first time. Don't want to bum you out. They do take their masks off. You don't see a whole lot. Those revelations come along later. But again, just the hype that came out of this for the G.I. Joe fans in the 80s when this book hit the shelves was just really something exciting. And again, the cover is pretty spectacular and pretty great. Those G.I. Joe books are heating up actually because of the rumors of new movies coming out. And just they were good books. They were very well done books. So if you can add this one to your collection, if you're a G.I. Joe fan, it's a neat cover, great concept, and I would highly recommend it. You can get it pretty cheap. Another one that just kind of stands on its own because of what it is Godzilla King of Monsters number 20. And again, I'm not going to have to say a whole lot about this one. It's Godzilla versus the Fantastic Four. That's all you need to know. Another 80s book that is, oh boy, I just can't even begin this conversation. I know there's going to be a lot of laughter about this one. Transformers buried them, I know. But I loved the GoBots as a kid. I thought they were so cool. And surprisingly to me, this series came out, I believe, about 2 years ago from IDW. It didn't last very long, not surprisingly, but the key aspect of this book, this is the first time that the GoBots have appeared in their own comic book. You can get these for cheap. If you were a GoBots fan in the 80s and you love that kind of stuff, add these books to your collections. The story wasn't fantastic, but the art's kind of cool, and just the idea that it's the first time the GoBots have appeared in a comic book is kind of a neat thing. I'm sure you have all heard the talk about this gentleman coming to the HBO series for Green Lantern, and it's John Stewart. This is not his first appearance. That book is becoming astronomically high, but he does have some nice key books that you can get that are on the cheaper end. This is the first time that John Stewart takes over as the Green Lantern, replacing Hal Jordan. It's Green Lantern number 182. You can still find this book relatively cheap. It's a very key, important issue for that character, and this story may play into that. So again, if you're looking at some spec books for that series, this is a great one. If you're also just looking to have some key John Stewart issues in your collection, a nice book to have. And finally for this run is Guardians of the Galaxy 13, the original run of Guardians of the Galaxy from the 90s. Everybody went crazy for the Cosmic Ghost Rider. And that first appearance in Thanos number 13, I believe it was, is through the roof. But you know what? The real first appearance of the Cosmic Ghost Rider is in Guardians of the Galaxy 13. I know. Different character, different story completely altogether. But it really is. It's the first Spirit of Vengeance in the future, the Ghost Rider of the future. A cheap book that you can find. Again, a great cover. I love that Guardians of the Galaxy run from the 90s. It was so much fun and a good book to add to your collection as well. All right, everyone. Thank you for being with me again today and hearing some of the books that I recommend for you to add as key collector books that are a little bit off the beaten path. Again, thank you all so much for joining me. If you're enjoying these, like them, share them, click whatever things you need to do to let me know that you're enjoying this. Give me some comments. Let me know how it's going, what else I can share with you, just to enjoy the love of comic books, share some information that I have, and have a good time with you all. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Comic Ed is signing off.